Sakon and Ukon. Sakon and Ukon were twin brothers from Otogakure and the de facto leaders of the Sound Four. Orochimaru sent them and their squad to recruit Sasuke Uchiha, so they rode up to Konoha, taunted Sasuke, and offered him power. Once he agreed, they gave him the Mind Awakening pill to boost his curse seal and began escorting him to Orochimaru's hideout. But of course, Konoha wasn't just about to let Sasuke go without a fight. The Sound Four first clashed with Genma and Raido, beating them using their curse seal's second stage. Then came the battle against Shikamaru's team. Sakon and Ukon ended up fighting Kiba and Akamaru in a brutal showdown. The brothers had a terrifying ability. They could merge their bodies, with Ukon literally fusing into Sakon or their enemies. Ukon tried to kill Kiba from the inside using his parasite demon demolition technique, but Kiba countered by stabbing himself to force Ukon out. Kiba and Akamaru later tricked them with an explosive decoy before escaping. Enraged, Sakon and Ukon tracked them down, but before they could finish the job, Kankuro stepped in. That's where things took a turn for the worse. Kankuro trapped Ukon inside his puppet Kuroari and sealed him inside its hollow body. Then he unleashed his black secret technique, Machine One-Shot. Here's how it worked. Kankuro's first puppet, Karasu, distracted the enemy while Kuroari maneuvered them into a trap. Once the target was locked inside Kuroari, Karasu dissembled itself to reveal multiple hidden blades. Those blades were then inserted into Kuroari's slots, impaling Sakon and Ukon from multiple directions inside the puppet. Ukon's final scream echoed from within before their blood leaked out, signaling their brutal demise. Sakon and Ukon were stabbed from multiple angles at the same time while completely trapped with no way to escape. Their Keiki Genkai, which allowed them to fuse and regenerate, backfired here because there was no way to separate or heal. They had to experience the full force of every blade piercing their body at once, making it easily one of the most excruciating deaths in the series. Team Shigure. Team Shigure was a genin squad from Amegakure that entered the Chunin exams. These guys fought using umbrellas, and their signature move let them rain down Senbon from above, controlling them with chakra to make dodging nearly impossible. After passing the first phase of the exam, they moved on to the Forest of Death. That's where things went horribly wrong for them. They had the misfortune of confronting Gaara, Kankuro, and Tamari, aka the three Sand siblings. Shigure, clearly not realizing what kind of monster he was dealing with, decided to attack Gaara head-on, seeking his scroll. He fired off his Senbon shower, but Gaara's sand instantly blocked it. With his attack failing, Shigure rushed in, and Gaara saw the perfect opportunity. Before Shigure could even react, Gaara's sand-binding Coffin locked him in place. This move traps the enemy in a crushing grip of sand and leaves them completely helpless. Then, in the most brutal execution imaginable, Gaara flung him into the air and crushed him to death mid-air, causing his blood to explode from the sand coffin. And just to add insult to injury, Gaara used Shigure's own umbrella to block the rain of blood from getting on him. Seeing their leader get obliterated, Shigure's teammates begged for mercy, and even handed over their scroll in exchange for their lives. But Gaara killed them anyways, using the exact same technique that brutally killed Shigure. Gaara himself called this a quick and painless death, but let's be real, it was anything but. The sand coffin doesn't kill instantly. It first immobilizes the target, leaving them helpless, and then crushes them to death. This means that they're going to feel every single bone in their body get shattered, their organs getting compressed, and their entire body being reduced to paste before they actually die. So yeah, quick and painless? Not even close. Gaara was just so desensitized to killing that he saw it that way. But for Team Shigure, it was pure agony, both physically and mentally. Jiraiya, aka the Toad Sage because of his summoning abilities, and the Pervy Sage because, well, you know, was one the legendary Sannin of Konoha. He played a huge role in shaping Naruto into the ninja he became, teaching him how to summon animals, master the Rasengan, and even tap into the Nine Tails power, though that one was a bit of a work in progress. But as great as his time with Naruto was, Jiraiya's story was destined to end in tragedy. His final mission was infiltrating Amegakure to investigate the leader of the Akatsuki, Pain. What he didn't expect was that Pain was actually his former student, Nagato, one of the orphans Jiraiya had trained years ago. Instead of a heartfelt reunion, though, they went straight into one of the most brutal fights in the entire series. At first, Jiraiya managed to defeat 3 of Pain's bodies, but just when it seemed like he had the upper hand, Pain's Asura Path blindsided him and literally ripped off his left arm. Things only got worse when all 6 Pains appeared and completely overwhelmed him. Still, Jiraiya fought on, even managing to capture the animal path and send it back to Konoha with Shima while he and Fukasaku confront Pain again. Then came the final heartbreaking moment. The remaining Pain surrounded Jiraiya, crushed his throat to silence him, and impaled him with their black rods. Barely clinging to life, Jiraiya forced himself back to consciousness one last time and used his final strength to carve a coded message about Pain's true identity into Fukasaku's back, ensuring Konoha would have a fighting chance against Pain. With his mission complete, Pain delivered the final blow, sending Jiraiya sinking into the sea's depths. His death was agonizingly drawn out and filled with extreme physical trauma. Imagine having to keep fighting while bleeding out from a severed arm, unable to breathe with a crushed throat, impaled with multiple chakra-disrupting weapons, forcing yourself to stay conscious long enough to finish a final message before getting drowned to death. On top of physical agony, Jiraiya also had to mentally process the betrayal of his former student while knowing he wouldn't make it out alive. Hidan. Hidan was an S-rank missing nin who defected from Yugakure after it stopped being a proper shinobi village and turned into a tourist site instead. He wasn't exactly a go-with-the-flow kind of guy. He believed that shinobi were meant to kill, so he did most of the rational thing in his mind and slaughtered his neighbors before leaving. That's how he ended up joining Joshinism, a cult-like religion that worshipped destruction, and through its rituals, he became effectively immortal. Thanks to his immortality and sadistic nature, he was recruited into the Akatsuki and partnered with Kakuzu, forming a infamous zombie combo, since neither of them were easy to kill. Hidan was as conceited as they come, and in a fight against Asuma and his team, he used his Joshinist ritual to link their bodies together, stabbing himself to kill Asuma in a truly brutal scene. This, of course, made Shikamaru snap, setting him on a path of cold, calculated revenge. Later, after sealing away the Two Tails and the Three Tails, Hidan and Kakuzu were ambushed by Shikamaru and Team Asuma, but this time, Shikamaru had a fully thought-out plan to take Hidan down. He lured Hidan away from Kakuzu, trapping him in a shadow technique and leading him into a carefully prepared battlefield, covered in wires and explosive tags. Thinking he had the upper hand, Hidan performed his usual ritual, but he didn't realize that Shikamaru had tricked him into drinking Kakuzu's blood instead of his own. Instead of killing Shikamaru, he ended up destroying one of Kakuzu's hearts. Realizing he had been played, Hidan tried to retaliate, but Shikamaru wasn't done yet. He restrained Hidan once again, wrapped him up in explosive tags, and activated a seal that caused the ground beneath them to collapse into a deep pit. With Hidan completely immobilized, Shikamaru revealed that the forest belonged to the Nara clan, and that they would make sure that Hidan stayed buried forever. With that, Shikamaru lit a cigarette, flicked it at Hidan, and blew him into pieces. Hidan's severed head screamed threats, but it was too late. Shikamaru sealed him in a massive pit of rubble and trapped him underground permanently. In short, Hidan got something way worse than death. In a way, Hidan's biggest strength. His immortality became his ultimate weakness as he was left to rot in complete isolation. In contrast, inescapable pain. Since the only thing that could kill him was lack of nutrition, he's literally rotting away piece by piece, experiencing slow starvation and drawn-out suffering, with Shikamaru making sure he would suffer for eternity. Honestly, death would be a mercy in his case.
And really quick, if you enjoy these no-nonsense, straight-to-the-point videos covering all sorts of anime topics, then make sure to like this video and subscribe. But anyway,
Kirigakure Ninjas killed by Obito. During the Third Shinobi World War, Team Minato, led by freshly promoted Jonin Kakashi, was tasked with blowing up the Kanabi Bridge, a crucial supply route for Iwagakure. Things took a turn when Obito, one of their teammates, got badly injured and was assumed dead. Even though he was out of the picture, the bridge mission was still a success. But Obito wasn't actually dead. He was found and patched up by an old and scheming Madara, who basically gave him a half-Zetsu body upgrade after amputating his damaged parts. Obito was grateful, but had only one thing on his mind: getting back to his teammates, Kakashi and Rin. After months of intense rehab, Obito got used to his new body and was eager to return. Well, Zetsu showed up with urgent news that Kakashi and Rin were in serious danger, surrounded by Kirigakure shinobi. With the help of the spiral-faced Zetsu, who turned into a suit to enhance Obito's movement, he rushed to the battlefield. On the way, he briefly saw an image of Rin through his empty eye socket and brushed it off, but when he arrived, he was met with a nightmare. Kakashi had just impaled Rin with Chidori, and she barely had time to whisper his name before dying in his arms. That was it. Obito snapped. His Mangekyo Sharingan awakened, as did the one he had given to Kakashi, who passed out shortly after. In an instant, Obito's grief exploded in pure unchecked rage. The Kirigakure Ninja noticed him, but by then, it was already too late. Obito went full-on monster mode, using a deadly combo of Kamui and wood release cutting technique to turn the battlefield into a massacre. Giant wooden spikes erupted from his right side and skewered the Kirinin one by one. Imagine branches growing rapidly inside and outside the victim, ripping through their flesh, breaking bones, and causing unbearable agony before death finally claims them. Those who saw what was happening quickly realized they were doomed and tried to retreat with Ren's body, but Obito wasn't letting them get away. One unlucky shinobi attempted to grab Ren, but Obito caught him, slammed his head into the ground, and then mercilessly pounded his skull into oblivion with his fist. The remaining ninjas stood frozen in horror before Obito finished them off by crushing them between massive wooden branches. When it was all over, he stood there, surrounded by a blood-soaked battlefield. In terms of pure pain and suffering, Obito's victims arguably experienced some of the worst deaths in the series. Kisame. Kisame was an extremely powerful shinobi from the Kirigakure Hoshigaki clan. After making a name for himself as part of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, he went rogue and became an S-rank missing nin. Eventually, he joined the Akatsuki and got paired up with Itachi. His most impressive ability is his absolute mastery of water release. He can flood an entire battlefield and turn it into his personal ocean to trap and dominate his opponents. And keeping with his shark aesthetic, he could summon actual sharks for combat or even to send messages. Kisame's final moments started after Naruto completed his Nine Tails chakra training. The second Naruto powered up, he sensed Kisame hiding inside Samehada. Caught red-handed, Kisame tried to escape, but Naruto smashed him hard enough to send him running, with Killer B right on his tail. The chase ended when Kisame busted through the Falls of Truth, interrupting Might Guy, who was in the middle of an intense self-discovery session. Seeing Kisame, Guy just assumed he was another enemy and immediately threw hands. The fight escalated quickly, and Guy went all out, opening the 7th gate and unleashing his devastating daytime tiger move. Kisame countered with his massive water release Great Shark Bullet, but it was no match. Guy's attack crushed him and knocked him out cold. While unconscious, Kisame was restrained by Yamato's wood release, and Aoba tried to dig into his mind to extract Akatsuki's secrets. But Kisame wasn't about to let that happen. In a hardcore move, he bit down on his own tongue so hard that the pain shocked him back into consciousness, stopping Aoba's mind-reading attempt and keeping the Akatsuki secret safe. With no way out, Kisame made his final, brutal decision. He trapped himself inside a giant water dome, making sure no one could interfere, then summoned 3 hungry sharks. As the water churned around him, he had a moment of reflection as he remembered his first meeting with Itachi. Then, in one of the most disturbing self-executions in the series, he let the sharks devour him alive. Naruto, Guy, and the others could only watch in horror as the once clear water turned deep red. The dome violently splattered blood and torn shark remains everywhere, marking the end of Kisame. Being eaten alive is already a nightmare. Imagine being trapped in water, completely defenseless, while razor-sharp teeth rip through your body piece by piece. The monster of the hidden mist went out in the most brutal, shark-infested way possible. Kaiza. Kaiza was a humble fisherman looking for a fresh start in the land of waves. While he was there, he ended up saving a young boy, Inari, from drowning and quickly became a father figure to him. He taught Inari some of life's most important lessons, especially the idea that you should always protect what's precious to you, with these 2 arms. That line would come back to haunt him in the worst way possible. Kaiza wasn't just a good dad to Inari, he became a full-blown hero to the village. When a dam malfunctioned and a massive flood threatened to destroy everything, he pulled off the impossible by swimming through the raging currents and shutting it down all by himself. The guy was basically superhuman in the eyes of the villagers. But then came Gato, the corrupt businessman who wanted to take over the land of waves. Kaiza wasn't about to sit back and let that happen, so he stood up against him. Unfortunately, Gato had no interest in fair fights. He captured Kaiza, tortured him, and decided to make an example out of him to crush any hope of resistance. To mock Kaiza's words about protecting loved ones with these 2 arms, Gato's men literally cut them off. Imagine the sheer agony of having your limbs hacked off while still conscious. Nerves firing off in pure torment, blood pouring out with no chance of survival. The pain alone would have been unbearable. The man who had once been the village savior was left bleeding, broken, and powerless in front of everyone. And just to drive the fear home, Gato executed him in public, forcing Inari to watch as his hero was murdered in cold blood. In the anime, they toned it down a bit, leaving his arms badly injured by the mallets instead of severed. Orochimaru's test subjects. Orochimaru wasn't just one of the legendary Sannin, he was the definition of a mad scientist. This guy had one ultimate goal, to learn all the world's secrets. But of course, knowledge like that doesn't come easy. He needed an eternity to figure out everything, so he needed to gain immortality to do that, and he didn't care how many lives he had to destroy to get there. So he began to conduct horrific human experiments. He spent years kidnapping people, shinobi, villagers, even kids, just to test out ways to extend his own life. One of his most disturbing experiments was trying to recreate the first Hokage's wood release by injecting Hashirama Senju's DNA into 60 children he kidnapped. The result to every single one of them was dying in the most brutal way possible, with Orochimaru writing the whole thing off as a failure. Or so he thought. Turns out, one of the kids actually survived. Orochimaru later learned Tobirama Edo Tensei, summoning impure world reincarnation, and became obsessed with it. This forbidden jutsu literally rips a person's soul out of their body so it can be forcibly replaced by a deceased person, giving them a new body and a new chance in life. And where do these sacrificial vessels come from? Yeah, his unlucky test subjects. Imagine being alive 1 second, then your entire existence is erased, just so some dead ninja can take over your body. That's the kind of nightmare Orochimaru was running in his secret labs. From there, he started developing his own brand of immortality, the living corpse reincarnation. When his current body started wearing out, he just hopped into a fresh new one, like changing clothes. He later experimented with Jugo's unique abilities, which led him to discover the Ryuchi Cave and master Senjutsu. But since Sage Mode didn't work well with his frail host bodies, he came up with the Curse Seals technique instead, first testing it on Anko, then performing it on Kimimaro and the Sound 4. And let's not forget his underwater ninja experiments. In the anime, he teamed up with Amachi to mess around with the Land of Sea villagers and turn them into creepy amphibious warriors. Again, most of these people didn't survive his brutal experiments. The bottom line, if you were a test subject in Orochimaru's experiments, you were in for one of the worst, most physically agonizing deaths in the series. Some were pumped full of experimental chakra mutations until their bodies literally tore apart. Others were cursed with seals that drained them dry. And then there were the poor souls used for Edo Tensei, who didn't just die, but had their very existence erased. Fu Yamanaka. Fu Yamanaka got one of the worst deals in Naruto. We've already talked about how terrifying Edo Tensei is, but Fu? He had to experience it firsthand, and it's one of the most painful ways to go out. Fu was a skilled shinobi from the Yamanaka clan, and a top operative en route, which already meant that his life wasn't exactly sunshine and rainbows. When Danzo headed to the Kage summit, Fu and Torune were chosen to escort him, but things went downhill fast when they ran into Tobi. Before they even had a chance to put up a real fight, Tobi transported them to his Kamui dimension, essentially trapping them in a place with no escape. Things took an even worse turn when Tobi wanted to test Kabuto's Edo Tensei. Kabuto needed sacrifices, and since Tobi had 2 shinobi just lying around, he decided to use them. First, Tobi killed Torune, then he handed Fu over to Kabuto to use as a sacrifice. Fu was forced to stand completely still inside the ritual seal, unable to move or fight back, while Edo Tensei worked his dark magic. As the jujitsu activates, his body is physically consumed by swirling ash and dirt, screaming in pain. Imagine standing there, powerless, as your soul is getting sucked out of your physical body, that was literally being torn apart and reconstructed into someone else. Fu wasn't just killed, his entire being was erased, body and soul, just to bring back Torune. His final moments was him screaming as he was crushed and overwritten by Edo Tensei's horrifying process. Fudo. Fudo really thought he was going to help destroy Konoha, but instead, he ended up experiencing one of the most brutal deaths in Naruto. As part of Furuido's team, Fudo was all in on the plan to wreck the Hidden Leaf. Their squad stole the corpses of 4 insanely powerful guardian ninja who had mastered the limelight technique, basically an overpowered lightning-based jutsu capable of wiping entire villages off the map. Of course, Team 7 wasn't about to let that slide, and after getting intel from Chiriku at the Fire Temple, they went after the Grey Robbers. When the fight broke out, Fudo went up against Yamato, and to his credit, He wasn't just some weak grunt. He showcased his Earth Release mastery, throwing around some massive terrain-shifting jutsu and even managing to trap Yamato in a stone prison. But it was all part of Yamato's plan to let himself get captured. He was analyzing Fudo's fighting style the whole time while waiting for the perfect moment to counterattack. Fast forward to Konoha's invasion, and Fudo is back at it again, leading an army of undead ninja to wreak havoc. Then his rematch with Yamato happened. This time, Yamato had his number. He noticed Fudo's heavy armor and decided to turn the battlefield into a trap by flooding the ground with water, so Fudo would start sinking. And then came the real nightmare. Yamato used Wood Release, Tree Binding Flourishing Burial, a jutsu that doesn't just trap an opponent, but also crushes them. Imagine standing there, sinking helplessly into the ground, when suddenly massive wood branches shoot up and wrap around your entire body. Then, before you can even struggle, the wood tightens like a vice, crushing your bones, suffocating you, and leaving zero chance of escape. That's exactly what happened to Fudo. He was squeezed to death, with his body utterly crushed under the weight of Yamato's jutsu. The second he died, his reanimation technique broke, and all the zombies he summoned instantly turned to dust. So not only did he suffer one of the most physically painful deaths in the series, but he also completely failed his mission. What a rough way to go.